This episode of the GC Sunscast is brought to you by our Patreon donors: Old Soul, Jack's Dad, Paul Vosti, Chris Moore, Tom Kim, and James Wood. If you'd like to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/GC Sunscast and donate. If you can't afford it, don't worry, head on over to our Facebook and YouTube, like and subscribe, or check us out on Twitter at GC Sunscast. But now let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to the GC Sunscast, the Gold Coast Suns show by fans for fans. I am your host Shane, and joining me on the phone is Tom, and we love this team, as I take a quote from our man Tom and his Facebook celebrity status.
Oh yeah, I got 2 seconds on a montage. You got the match ball. You were like a little kid opening up his Easter eggs early.
Yes, well, after a horrendous week last week, coming down with a bit of a flu and food poisoning symptoms, I bounced back and recovered in time to go to the game on Carlton and on Sunday, and just karma, I guess, came back, and I was rewarded with the match ball. And let me tell you, standing at the boundary line in those final minutes, at first, I was wondering whether I even wanted the match ball because it looked like Carlton would get over the top. But, oh my God, it's so surreal. The vibe, it feels like I was being punched in the gut by the vibe that you're getting from all the players. The coaches, the Carlton coach was screaming at each other. And just the thunderous applause and roar from the crowd. You can really hear it down at ground level. It sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Well, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's jump straight into it. In the last 2 weeks since our last episode, the AFL Women's Suns team has started signing up players. So
have they ever?
There's actually a really long list, and a lot of these players are from Brisbane. So unfortunately for our uptown rivals, they're looking a lot weaker, but at the same time, I've gone over the names, and none of them are in their top 10 best and fairest from this year. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on the on-field for them. It's probably more of their depth, and it's being taken away. So I'll just go over these names. We've got Jamie Stanton. She came from North Melbourne, inside midfielder. We've got Tori Groves-Little, from Brisbane, 18-year-old midfielder. Paige Parker, 23-year-old halfback winger from Brisbane. Tiana Ernest, 31-year-old defender from the Western Bulldogs. Jackie Yorston, an inside midfielder from Brisbane. Sam Virgo, a 32-year-old defender from Brisbane. And then we've got the Brisbane running half-backman, Emma Pittman. She's also experienced. I don't have her age in front of me. We've got Lauren Bella, a young ruckman coming from Brisbane as well. Ruckwoman, sorry. And the biggest coup is the Brisbane Lions captain, Leah Kasler, also known as Xena Warrior Princess.
She may not be featuring in the best and fairest, but leadership is something that you can't buy. And all of these players have some sort of connection to the Gold Coast or Queensland, or a couple of them from far north Queensland. So they sort of felt a loyalty to the Suns because that's now the Suns recruitment zone. So, it's really great. There is a protection for the Lions in place. The Lions are only allowed to lose 8 players. So
that's 8 players without compensation. If any other players wish to go, then a trade would need to be negotiated.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I should mention. You're quite right in that. Now, the reason it's 8 players is because it's a two-team state. Freo have also got this 8 players. All the other teams, it's only 4 players because they've all got equalisation with other teams and all the rest of it. So, or they don't have another team in the case of Greater Western Sydney. So Brisbane Brisbane have been taking our juniors because we haven't had a senior team, and so now this is just a bit of a payback. So, one thing's for sure is that the women's Q Clash is going to have instant spice, instant. You can just imagine what it's like it took a few years for the men's games to really get that sort of added, je ne sais quoi, as the French would say. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's going to be another 10 months. But the best thing about it is that we'll be able to follow a Suns team in January.
Yeah, we'll have a bit more to talk about when we come back. We'll probably have to come back earlier than what we did this year. We'll have to come back at the start of January, probably. So, I mean, looking at the demographics and the age group, like you said, they're all coming from our academy or from up north where the Suns have had a hand in developing talent. So that's really good to see. We've got a couple of senior bodies there, Leah Kasler and Sam Virgo, that are moving down here for coaching purposes as well. So they're going to have a hand in bringing up these girls, giving them role models and helping them fit that professional athlete life. And there seems to be a good range of positions as well as age group. We've got the young 18-year-olds coming in. We've also got the experienced 30-year-olds, and we've got a couple of players in their mid-20s. So it's a nice split.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a premiership player from the Bulldogs, so that's another bit of experience there, and she's got a resume, so she doesn't need to worry about her match payments because she's making more than any of the rest of us. So but we don't really have time to go through play by player. But I hope as the list sort of develops and as the draft comes in, we can at least draw attention to it. The Suns website have been fantastic with it. They've had more AFLW news this week than they've had AFLM news.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot coming out, and it's every time I look at the Suns app, there's always something new, a new AFLW video or announcement. So it's really exciting to see. Well, we don't really have much more info on the AFLW at this point in time, but as the year gets on, we're going to do a bit of research in it and pay a bit more attention so that come January next year, we'll be able to talk with a bit more knowledge about it for our listeners and fans. But let's move on to the academy results. Tom, do you want to take us away with this one, Tom?
Yes. Well, the Suns Academy under 18s are officially top of the table of the NAB League after their third win in a row against Oakley Chargers. It was a flogging in the end. It was 71 points or something. Look, it must be said that the Vic Metro and Vic Country trial games were on, so it wasn't the best team that Oakley could have put on the park. And one disappointing factor of that is Oakley's actually got two of the highest rated juniors in the country who will both go top 10. So yeah, a bit of a bummer of that, but great that the Suns boys just got out there. I happened to go and see the game the week before against the Brisbane Lions, and I'll tell you one thing. They sang the song in the sheds after the game with as much passion as the senior team, if possibly even a little bit more. They are a very good team. They are. Normally, watching under 18s footy, you kind of expect there to be, the talented kids will be running around with the ball all day, and the rest of them are just there to make it up. But this team's just chock full of talent and young. They're not all 18-year-olds. They're 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Good mix. We'll have a good team for a few seasons to come with this group.
Yeah, definitely. Jump on to the Suns site. I'm pretty sure I've seen some videos as well with some highlights and footage of the game. So you'll get a good glimpse of what's coming through the academy for the Suns and a glimpse of our future. I mean, we've got the brothers. We've got a Joyce brother, a Crossley brother coming through. We've got Buderick, who's looking amazing as well.
Ethan Dawson, goal kicker. There's three little brothers, and don't forget the PNG whiz Ace, who no one can say his real name. If we get 4 or 5 of them in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, are all of them available this year? I thought a few were going to be spread out over next year.
Some of the better players are not. Yeah, you're quite right. Alex Davies, who we've been looking at for a couple of years as being a very talented junior because he keeps making all-Australian lists and all that kind of stuff. He won't be available this year. And another player who is just so impressive for a 16-year-old kid, he's one of the top-rated key defenders in the underage comp. And this isn't just the playing against the Lions up the road. These are the premier teams from Victoria, the best in the country. And, they have thousands of people going to their games. And our players are just doing so well against them. And it's just fantastic. I probably should mention the other name, Jack Johnson. He's too young to go through. But, yeah, you got it right. But Eric Joyce and Josh Gore is one of the leading goal kickers. And he's 170. He's basically Darcy McPherson proportions. And he's kicking bags of goals every week.
Yeah, well, that's great. And also one of the 19-year-old blokes that you were keen on for the Suns to select in the supplemental period and in the draft, Dirk Conan. He's having a good game again.
Two of them. Dirk Conan was playing NEAFL, but we've just got this backlog of tall players, and it's something we've never ever had a problem with. I think we've got something like 15 players over 6'5". So how do you fit 15 players of that height into 2 teams? And the answer is we don't have the game plan for that. So he was 15th man out, and he got kind of relegated in a way, but also the under 18s have priority. So he played for them and was like a man playing amongst the boys. But no, I have 2 under 19s players who I think we should draft. The other one is ruckman Matt Conroy, and he's proving to be one of the best in the age division as well. So they'll doubtless go on to play for Allies. Allies will be finalised. We've already got 5 players pre-selected for the Allies, but there's 20 more spots come up in the next couple of weeks. So I expect to see a couple of guys like Conan and Conroy, and perhaps even Lockie McDonald, who I'll talk about in a minute, who played in the NEAFL, and Ryan Gilmore. But anyway, NAB boys on top of the world. This week they play highly rated Eastern Rangers, and it's down there, so you can't go along to it. But that'll be the real test. If we can be competitive against them, then recruiters will start sitting up and taking notice.
Yeah, well, hopefully the boys power along. I was looking at the ladder. They're sitting second on the ladder. For some reason in that league, they're giving a draw 6 points. So you get more points for a draw than you do for a win. So that baffles me a bit, but the Suns should be on top.
No, it's not right. It was, for starters, the Suns have only played 3 games and they're undefeated. So you'll notice that the team on top has played more games. But
the ladder I was looking at said they'd played 3 games, 2 wins and 1 draw, and they're on 14 points. So either that's wrong or they're giving out 6 points for a draw. I can't figure that one out. But this was from the actual NAB League website. Yeah,
they're possibly giving 4 points for a bye because it is the end of round 4. The Suns play rounds 2 to 6.
Yeah, you could be right there. If it's 4 points for a bye, that would make a lot of sense. All right, well, let's move on to the NEAFL results. This one was available on YouTube, as we mentioned in previous episodes. And if you're also able to get to Metricon a few hours earlier, you would have been able to watch the Gold Coast Suns 2 take on the Sydney Swans 2. So it was there were moments the Gold Coast Suns looked really good, but for a majority of it, Sydney dominated. Sydney were on top and just controlled the game. The Suns got off to a slow start in the first quarter and came home really strong in that second quarter to actually be up in front by a couple of goals at half-time. We saw Corbett kick 3 goals in that second quarter, and he also had a match-high 10 marks and looked really good. The only thing I'll say with Corbett, from what I watched of the game on YouTube, I thought his defensive efforts and his running without the ball was a bit slow, and because of that alone, I don't think he's going to get a walk-up start to the senior side. George Hall-Smith had 32 disposals, 9 clearances, and really stood out as one of the few Suns players out there that knew how to play. A lot of his possessions actually went to, open space because he was expecting a player to be there. And that you'll notice if you're pay attention to the VFL leagues and the Sandful, when you've got experienced AFL players playing in that league, they're putting the ball out to where a player should be, and you just notice around them that there's not enough players with that awareness and that knowledge to get to that right spot. So I thought George Hall-Smith was a real standout and probably needs to be back in our senior side as soon as possible. And Calamarchi had 24 disposals, 9 rebound 50s. He looked really good. Again, I still think he needs a bit more time in the reserves. He's missed a lot of football. But after a slow start, he came home quite well and looked pretty good in that game. What are your thoughts from it, Tom?
Yeah, I agree on Chi. He did look good, and do not know why he missed a few weeks, but good on him. He's back, and Chi doesn't miss much footy when he comes back from injury, or he's previously had personal leave as well. So he's too talented to stay out of the top team for a long time, and even just in a second tier game without any, he hasn't played for a month, and he just came out and tore it up in patches. Needs to probably put in a 4-quarter performance and really follow through. Like as you said, he sort of seems to be a bit too classy for his teammates. Well, that's not good enough. That's just sort of, in a way, making a bit of an excuse. Another player who wasn't mentioned there who did really well was Brad Shear. At this stage, I have to say Shear is a tiptoe in front of Will Brodie. Both of them were very, very good. It's just that Shear seems to be just doing all the things right. Those in the know who are close to him said he was pretty peed off over the summer at being delisted and then put on the rookie list. And he really took it personally. And instead of getting a chip on his shoulder, he just trained and trained and trained. He's fit as a bull, running forward, running backwards, doing all the things that need to be done. As is Will Brodie, not a knock on him. It's just we are doing just very well with these young midfielders. And if anything happens they're going up against Swallow, Miller and Fiorini for a spot. They're not going to dislodge one of those guys anytime soon. But it's good to know we've got that depth and they're developing in there. The one other player that I want to mention, and I have made this prophecy many, many moons ago that Andrew Swallow would play NEAFL for the Suns, and lo and behold, A Swallow playing in number 24, which is familiar for a Swallow. On the NEAFL app, it was D Swallow for a while. They by the end of the game, they managed to change the initial. Wearing his brother's jersey.
Well, he certainly did look like a retired footballer, though, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he was in the NEAFL Team of the Year last year, so it's been a graceful decline for him. I don't know whether they want to let him out there on the pitch again. It wasn't terrible, but as the match went on, you could see, yeah, he had a little bit of a dad bod going on, not too much, but Look, if we need him, he's there. Good to know. Other clubs exploit that kind of thing quite often. So anyway, it sounds like the Cavalry's come back now. Should our injury list is not getting longer, it's getting shorter. And the NEAFL boys, I thought, were the better team in every department, but they just haven't got that synchronicity. These guys are all just talented players, all been thrown together. They really need to start getting a few of those connections, and they will. Still quite a lot of inexperienced players in there. King sort of looks a bit out of his element, as does McLennan. We've still got Southport reserves players making up the numbers. So we'll see how the boys go over the next couple of weeks.
A couple of players I just want to bring up as well. Tom Nichols looked really good in the ruck, and he got around the ground, got a lot of possessions, and really provided target in the middle of the ground, which was a good look. And I'm suddenly not as worried if Witts goes down and Tom Nichols is able to play like that. And the other thing, we've had a lot of discussion with Will Brodie and how he should be playing in the seniors. Watching him in the reserves, I am 100% confident the match committee and the coaching staff have made the right call with Will Brodie. Watching him play, a lot of his possessions, he had about 30, were all sort of under pressure, hack kicks forward, and he's all right when he handballs, but when he kicks, he's just not hitting targets. He's not putting it in the right space for players to get onto it, and it doesn't look good. If he was to do that at the AFL level, then he'd be turning the ball over more than anyone else in the side. So I just think Will Brodie really needs to work on that, and we can't be bringing him in unless there's an injury and Swallow, Miller or Miles is out of the side, because while he can get the ball and clear it is not very effective with by foot and needs to focus on just handballing it out to others. What are your thoughts on that one, Tom?
Yeah, it's been a knock on him for a while. Look, I don't think if we had him in the team at the expense of any of the guys you mentioned that we'd lose that game against Carlton, because he would have brought a different dimension to the game, perhaps, that we needed. So I can see why people are screaming for him to come in. But another reason why people want him to come in is they're worried that we'll lose him, that he'll do a scrimshaw. If he's going to do that, I don't want him at the club. I don't want to waste time on teaching him in first grade the lessons that he should be learning in the reserve grade. So, over the 2 and a bit years, he's had a couple of injuries. He's had a few stretches of a few games at a time in the top flight. Yes, he was looking great towards the end of last year, but we were losing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the guy's played in one winning team for the Suns. So, yeah, he's not going to come back and immediately be a match winner. Let's see the NEAFL team string a few wins together, and let's see W. Brodie getting, best on ground a few weeks in a row, and then maybe the conversation will change.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think seeing the NEAFL team actually get some wins, because while they've been competitive, they haven't been able to get the wins, and they've had too many lapses in concentration, which have resulted in losses. We didn't actually say the scores for this game. Sydney 110 defeated the Suns 72. So it's turned out to be a bit of a blowout after half time. The Suns just didn't show up, and the coach Malcheski came out, and one of his notes was, we can't expect to win a game if we only play a quarter of good footy, and that's essentially all that happened. It was only the second quarter worth watching. So, yeah, if you're looking to check out the highlights for the NEAFL game, maybe just don't watch the whole thing. Look for the highlights, or just watch that second quarter. All right, well, it's time to move on to the main event. Gold Coast Suns versus Carlton. Gold Coast Suns defeated Carlton 59-57, so we won by 2 points. Goal kickers, Sexton kicked 2 goals, so did Holman. My best on ground was Miller, 31 disposals, 6 marks, 14 tackles, and 22 pressure acts. He turned the ball over a bit, but just his determination to get in there and create a contest really halted Carlton, especially in that first quarter. I thought the Suns' pressure and intensity at the ball and in the midfield was a huge factor in us. Well, we didn't dominate that first quarter, but it went a long way to getting the couple of goal lead that we needed going into the quarter time.
Yeah, look, it was an interesting game, wasn't it? It was one of those games where you watch the previous week on TV and you sort of see it in a certain light, and then you're at the game and then you're seeing things so differently because the camera angles are removed and you're in it and you're feeling it. Gee, it was a great crowd. They were really into it, and there were plenty of Blues supporters, so it was sort of an interesting game in that respect. And at times the Blues supporters were very, very vocal and seemed to be drowning out the Suns. But as the game wore on, it was just the crowd was just lifting the roof, weren't they?
Yeah, Suns supporters have shown a tendency to come alive when the game's on the line, and that usually happens in the third or the fourth quarter. And it's been a trend so far this year. The crowds have been great. We had about 14,500 there for this game, I think. So I was hoping for more. But considering we've only got around 10,000 members at the moment, I think it's a good result. The Suns are doing quite well, trying to build support and confidence by the fans in the club. And the performances they're putting in are going a long way to attracting old fans and new fans alike.
Yes. I did notice that a lot of people on social media were sort of saying, Suns, you've just won a new supporter and, it's been worth the wait and this kind of stuff. So, yeah, winning over the disillusioned fans is a big thing, but getting new supporters and people who, I say I don't like the people who barrack for two teams. If you've got to do that, you've got to do it. I think it's a little bit like having a wife and a mistress. Choose. But if the wife and the mistress are okay with it, well, then you don't have to. Maybe it's not like that. Maybe it explains why I'm not married. Look, mate, I thought David Swallow was the best player by. Probably the only reason I say better player than Miller is his disposal efficiency was 83.3%, and he was just everywhere. 14 contested possessions, just amazing. Just really standing up as a captain. Like, he was always good, but just him and I had Witts for a point. So Swallow 3, Miller 2, Witts 1, and Wittsy, he's also just that captaincy is just giving him an extra leg. He kicked a goal in the first quarter that last year he would have missed. He's getting better with the things that weaknesses in his game, and it's making him one of the best ruckmen in the comp.
Yeah. Look, my 3-2-1, I went with Miller 3, Holman 2, and Witts 1. Now, I spoke to you a lot about this after the game when you saw me with my precious Easter egg football. Signed by Tuke Miller, so it's going to be a hot property item. I'd love to get Jack Bow's signature on there. I might have to reach out to his old man and see what we can do. But one thing's for sure, next time there's a Suns meet and greet, I'll be bringing that ball with me and a permanent marker and trying to get as many signatures on it as I can. All right, but back to the football. After the game, I was talking to you about it. That was probably one of the worst games of football as a spectacle to watch that I can remember. That was my thoughts after the game. Just, it was kind of conflicting because the emotion that was brought up from those final few minutes really sort of took over the rest of the game. But if I was to have a clear head, we were kicking to opposition players directly. Players would stop in traffic, try and weave around and get caught holding the ball, or in a lot of the case, because the umpiring was so terrible, not get called holding the ball. But it's just, that was because the forwards were pushing up the ground and they're not working hard enough to get back. I watched 2 Metre Peter several times and he just looked so slow. He wasn't getting around the ground as well as he normally does. Maybe he's carrying an injury. Maybe he's just tired.
I think it's tiredness. I mean, he's chopping out in the ruck as well, don't forget. So Witsy will be ruck, go and have a seat. And then 2 Metre Peter, who's been running up and down like a madman this whole time, suddenly has to go down. And, I mean, his hit-outs 3 hit-outs this week. 19 last week was a superstar and kept us in the game all game with his hit-outs chopping out. Did his role to perfection. This time round, I mean, he kicked a wonderful goal early on and then had a couple of misses that you can forgive them in isolation, but they were pressure. There were times where we needed him to stand up. I'm not convinced that he's doing badly. I just think he's getting double teamed a lot and he's rooted. Like when he's going slow like that, it's not because he's unable to be agile. We know he can be agile. Don't forget, the last pass to win the game was Peter Wright getting the ball off the ground and giving it to Bosey. So, I just think he was rooted. By the end of the game, they're all rooted. So it's the great leveler, isn't it? You can see in the last term who has the stamina and who has the balls, like guys on the other team, like Daisy Thomas. He was just, he was exhausted and he was desperate for his team to win. And I think probably the best part about the game is that the other side was desperate to win, and they sniffed the blood in the air, and they were really going after us, and they were just stuffing up opportunity after opportunity and leaving us this tiny glimmer of hope, this little crack of light in the doorway. And then we somehow finished the game in front. And I don't think we win that game last year. I think this new attitude, the don't ever give up attitude, and how that was so frustrating in the first round to see that, did they give up or did that, why didn't we win? Well, the last 3 weeks we've won in every single situation. So it's frustrating to watch, but Jesus, 3-1, I would have been happy with 1 of 3.
Well, the Victorian media said that we've stolen pretty much every game we've played and won this year. This is the one that I actually think we did steal. I don't think the club's team decided to deserve to win it. Peter Wright making stupid mistakes like dropping a mark in the goal square. Alex Sexton while he's on fire at the moment kicking goals, that's all great, but he burns his teammates when he gets the ball in that forward 50. Jack Bowes was open. He could have kicked it to Jack Bowes late in that quarter, who could have kicked the sealer, minutes before Cripps got another one back. Sexton was the one that kicked that ball down to Wright. Sexton was no doubt aiming for goal. Wright just got in the way. It happens so often. Sexton picks up the ball, turns around, and goes straight for goal. Doesn't look for his teammates, and that's something which is disappointing, and I really hope he learns from that and learns to at least have one eye on his teammates, because you can't just blaze away for goal like that.
Jack Bowes got burnt a couple of times running into the goal square with players kicking for goal and missing, because that's Bosey's new role when he's not in the middle and tagging you're right. How's the Melbourne media, all they could go on about the last 2 weeks is Bontempelli and Cripps and the losers, and Jack Bowes is well, let's look at that. So 2 weeks in a row we didn't get to unpack last week's game, but 2 weeks in a row, Bowes has been the main curbing influence on the opposition's best player. We somehow win each game. Fiorini deserves a bit of credit because he's getting the possessions as well as having the time, sort of loosely tagging Bontempelli last week and Cripps this week. But someone who didn't get any credit for it last week, and I think you've acknowledged it this week, is Nick Holman. Nick Holman spent a bit of time on Cripps, and when you're a hard tagger, you don't end up with lots of touches. Holman ended up with doing exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah, I think he kicked 17 and had 17 disposals, kicked 2 goals. Add to that the tackles that he normally has in the pressure acts. I'm sitting there halfway through the fourth quarter watching the game live, and I'm scratching my head trying to think, who am I going to pick for my top 3 or my top 5 this week? Because So many players had disappointed me. Peter Wright was disappointing to me. I even thought Jack Bowes and Braden Fiorini were having quiet games and weren't having the impact that they should have. And then players like Jack Martin getting caught holding the ball, doing stupid mistakes like that. I just felt like our defence also sort of struggled to run the ball out. There were so many players I didn't feel were pulling their weight well enough, and there were just a lot of these. I was looking to pick players in that mid-range that were not lifting the team up, but performing their role and performing it well. And those players I was looking at was Jesse Joyce. He had 100% disposal efficiency for his 16 disposals, I think it was.
12.
But it was 100% disposal efficiency. So 12 effective disposals.
And he did exactly what he needed to do. He took 5 intercept marks. His opponent didn't get over the top of him. He was spoiling. He's putting on the pressure. And for the first time, I think, ever, there's a big fat 0 in the clanger column for Jesse Joyce. And good on him, he got dropped on the eve of the season.
What a way to celebrate 50 games. But
and he's undefeated this year. It's no Jesse, no joy for the Suns.
Well, it's the same with Nick Holman as well. And like I'm saying, Nick Holman, Darcy McPherson, these blokes, they're not going to be superstars. They're not going to win the game off their boot, but they're going to contribute and they're going to do their job and do it well. And they're the sort of blokes I want at our footy club. And a lot of the other blokes, I just think they didn't stand up to their expectations. So, like I said, I went with Miller. I thought his attack on the ball, especially in that first quarter, he had 9 tackles in that first quarter, which is a record for the Suns for amount of tackles in a quarter. I thought Witts was fantastic around the ground. He's been the best ruckman this year, winning the hit-outs. It's just a shame we haven't been able to capitalise on the centre clearances. But, looking at the stats, I guess I'm taking away from this game from more of a positive point of view. We limited Carlton to 46 inside 50s, so that was a really good result. And kept Carlton to the second lowest score, I think, or lowest score for the year. I had these figures.
We've got one of the best defences in the comp, and it's a cobbled together defence with no Thompson and no May. Even Harrison Wigg was possibly going to be in there. So it's bringing in guys through the trade and out of the state leagues and seeing what we can make of them. And as it turns out, we can make one of the best defences in the AFL.
Yeah. So, there were positives to take out of it. We won the hit-outs by 15 plus. We won the clearances overall by 5. We lost the centre clearances, but won the stoppages around the ground. And, we had these sort of highlights. Again, the resilience and the determination from the boys to dig deep in the final minutes of a game and get the ball rolling. It helped that Carlton made some mistakes, but, as you said, Peter Wright having the agility to get to the ground and dish out a handball, Jack Bowes having the speed to drop the ball onto his non-preferred foot, snap around for a goal.
Ugliest winning goal ever.
And that all started with Witts winning the hit-out and tapping it down to the ground level for our Suns mids to get to it.
And every single player in the Suns team trying to kick a goal until eventually Bowes did. 2 things I want to say about this game before we go on to the end of the show. I've always looked at stats at the end of the game and I look down the bottom and I see who hasn't got stats in the double figures and then why. And often it's key defenders like Jack Hompsch, and I look at him and go, okay, he's got good disposal efficiency, lots of 1%ers. Did he really? Is there anything about his game that was off? Well, he did spend a bit of time on the bench, but other than that, he was, staunch. Will Powell knocked out of the game. So those are 2 guys who've got the least possessions, and then the next 2 guys up, Chris Burgess and Jack Lukosius, have got identical statistics: 6 possessions each, 3 kicks, 3 handballs each, 2 effective disposals each. One or both of them has got to go down. They're letting down Wright. Wright's getting double teamed. He's running around like a maniac. Burgess with his one-handers. Lukosius just isn't used to the pace of the game, and he's not getting better. So I think we've got a couple of big decisions to make, but it's not up to you and me, unfortunately.
Yeah, those two are definitely on the chopping block. I think one of them will be lucky enough to survive a week and play in front of their hometown. On Easter Sunday.
That's good. A really good point, isn't it? But maybe they'll escape. Maybe they'll get given. Maybe it'll be an all SA attack next week. With put Peter Wright on the bench and bring in Sam Day, bring back Holland Smith. What other South Australians? Rankin comes back from his injury.
All right, well, before we move on, let's finish up with the match hot water performance moment of the week.
Lockie Weller, what a performance!
And I think it goes without saying it is the Jack Bowes non-preferred snap for goal, which won the Suns the game. So congratulations, Jack Bowes.
Yeah, legend. Legend. He's 21. Imagine what he's going to be like when he's 24, 25, getting this same sort of headlines as Cripps and Bontempelli.
All right,
he's worth it.
Well, we've only got a few minutes, so we'll quickly run over the injury list, which has just come out. Braden Crossley, hamstring 1 to 2 weeks. Corey Ellis, ankle 4 to 5 weeks. Jack Hompsch, elbow test. Sean Lemons, ankle test. Will Powell, concussion test. Isaac Rankin, hamstring 1 to 3 weeks. Rory Thompson, knee for the season. Harrison Wigg, knee, season. And Lockie Weller, hamstring, TBC. So a bit concerning with Lockie Weller, with being listed as TBC. It's probably doubtful that he comes in this week. So who are we looking to bring in? Well, I think George Holland-Smith, and if we drop Lukosius or Burgess, I think it's going to have to be between Day and Corbett. Do you think Brodie or Archie pushes anyone out of the side?
Shear, Brodie, Archie would be deserving. They might even pull a huge surprise and drag out Rischitelli, which they did last year. Look, that one's going to be a mystery this week. Very hard. I don't think it's going to be a horses for courses. It would be easy to say bring in Archie for Powell because they're quite similar players, but I don't know if it's as easy as that because Holland Smith's just demanding with his quality of play to get in there. Day kicked 5 last week, 1 this week. No one else is kicking bags in the AFL team, so I don't know. I think that he's don't know why they've got him in the NEAFL to be honest. But anyway, it's just me.
The Suns play the Crows on Easter Sunday. Now, I think the Suns need to nullify the Adelaide midfield. They're full of hard bodies, so we do need a player like George Holland-Smith coming into the squad to provide that support. Their defence is very strong, so our forwards are really going to need to pressure them and keep them accountable. And I think our forward line needs to take chances when presented. Burgess, Lukosius, if they're playing, they need to kick a goal. They need to provide a target and hit the scoreboard when it counts. So too does Peter Wright, who's been out of form lately. All right, well, any closing points for you, Tom?
I wanted just to make that distinction between Carlton and the Gold Coast. So the Setterfield gets 2 weeks for knocking out Will Powell, and Powell doesn't even get a free kick. Not that he could have taken it. And then Witts comes in a bit late, and Walsh gets a 50-metre penalty, and then Cripps comes in leading with his knees and smashes into Witts, and they don't even reverse the kick. So that was our game. That was our cross to bear. That can't keep happening. I hope the club will be asking for a few please explains because the umpiring was atrocious.
I think the umpiring around the entire league has been atrocious lately. All right, well, that's it for us. Thanks for joining us. I'm Shane. You're Tom.
Go Suns.
Go Suns.
We are the sons of the Gold Coast sky, where